At breakfast, my dad threw coffee on my face when I refused to give my credit card. The burning liquid splashed across my cheek and neck, seeping into my sweater like fire. The porcelain mug shattered against the counter, white shards skidding across the kitchen island and clattering onto the floor. For a second, the house went silent. Only the ticking of the clock filled the room, steady and cruel, as though nothing had just happened. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. My name is Emma Ellis. I'm 22 years old, and this is the story of how my own father tried to destroy me, and how I found the strength to fight back. The house looked perfect from the outside that Tuesday morning in Portland. White siding, trimmed hedges, the porch light glowing faintly even though the grey sky barely let the sun breathe. Neighbors always said our house looked like a postcard, the kind people frame and hang in their living rooms. But on the inside, it was a stage. And my father, Mark Ellis, was the director who demanded absolute obedience. I sat at the kitchen island, my tea already gone cold. He had been pacing since dawn, sharp strides from the French doors to the refrigerator, his shoes pounding against the hardwood floor. When I told him I wouldn't hand over my credit card for Uncle Ryan's debts again, his face twisted into something dark and ugly. "It's just a card, Emma," he barked, as though reason only ever lived in his mouth. I had looked him in the eye for the first time in years. "It's not just a card, Dad. It's my future. I can't keep covering for Ryan. Every time he stumbles, you throw money at him. And every time, it's me who pays for it." That word, selfish, had always been his favorite weapon. For years, I had bent myself into smaller versions to avoid it. But not anymore. Something inside me had snapped. Something that had been waiting, quietly, for the right moment. "No," I whispered, my voice low but stronger than it had ever been. "Not this time. I won't let him, or you, control me anymore." That's when the mug flew. That's when the coffee burned my skin. That's when my father looked me in the eye and said the words that cut deeper than the shards of porcelain at my feet. "You've made your choice. Now deal with the consequences." The doors slammed behind him, and the house shook before falling into suffocating silence. I stood there trembling, the sting on my skin nothing compared to the betrayal tearing me open from the inside. My hands moved without thought, grabbing a towel, pressing it to my cheek. I dropped to my knees, gathering the broken mug piece by piece, as though cleaning his mess was all I knew how to do. Each shard reflected a memory. Birthdays in this very kitchen, laughter that now felt staged, promises that had been lies all along. But this time, I wouldn't stay. Upstairs, I pulled a duffel bag from under the bed and packed in a fury: jeans, sweaters, documents, and the envelope of cash I'd been secretly saving for years. Proof that deep down, I'd always known this day would come. On my dresser, a photo of me and Dad smiled back at me, gap-toothed, him proud. I hurled it at the wall. The glass shattered. Relief filled the silence. Outside, the drizzle washed the last trace of coffee from my skin. I climbed into my old Toyota and drove. My phone buzzed, MIA. My best friend. My anchor. "Emma? Are you okay?" she asked, her voice full of worry. "He threw coffee at me," I said flatly. "Because I refused to give Ryan my card. I left. Come to me. Now. You're not alone." Her bakery glowed against the grey morning like a lighthouse. She pulled me into the back office, her arms wrapping around me like the safety I hadn't felt in years. I told her everything: the control, the debts, the isolation. She listened, her eyes burning with the kind of fire I thought had long gone out in me. "You're not going back there," she said. "I'll call Julia." Julia Thomas. A lawyer who didn't bend, who didn't flinch. By noon, I sat across from her in her office, the city stretching behind the glass. She listened carefully, then said, "This isn't just conflict, Emma. This is abuse. Financial. Emotional. Physical. And we're going to fight it." Her words built a bridge under my shaking feet. A protection order. Frozen accounts. Evidence collected. For the first time, the law was on my side, not his. That night, headlights sliced across Mia's living room wall. Dad's SUV. Uncle Ryan's smug beside him. I stepped outside before MIA could stop me. "This ends now," Dad commanded. "Come home." I met his eyes, my voice steady. "No. You don't get my card. You don't get me. Ryan laughed. You think you can survive without us? I already am. I told them about the protection order, about the police. And for the first time, panic cracked through Dad's mask. MIA stood beside me. Leave. You're done here. And they left. The next days blurred, papers filed, accounts frozen, threats saved as evidence. Ryan stormed into the bakery once, shouting that I'd ruined everything. I looked him in the eye and said calmly, that was the point. 1 week later, with police and Julia at my side, I returned to collect my things. My childhood home felt like a stranger's stage. I packed what mattered, found my old diary full of a girl who once believed her father's love was survival, and slipped it into my bag. Downstairs, Dad appeared. You've made your point. Come home. No, I told him. I'm going somewhere better. Ryan burst in, panicked. The accounts, everything's frozen. Investors are pulling out. It's the abuse allegations, I said coldly. It's all coming out now. Their faces twisted with the realization that their empire had cracks. I walked out into the rain. This time, it felt like freedom. MIA squeezed my hand. You're free. For the first time, I believed her. Freedom isn't a door you walk through once. It's a hallway of locked rooms, each demanding another key. And though I had stepped outside my father's control, the battles waiting ahead were darker, sharper, and more exhausting than I had ever imagined. The first week at Mia's bakery felt like stepping into another world. Cinnamon-scented mornings, soft chatter of customers, the hum of ovens. It was life, real life, the kind I thought I'd never have. I worked behind the counter, wiping tables, baking when MIA trusted me with recipes. For the first time, I earned something of my own, not tied to my father's name, not signed with his signature. But peace never lasts long when someone like Mark Ellis believes you belong to him. On the 10th day after I left, I woke to a knock at Mia's apartment door. Not a polite knock. A pounding one. My chest tightened. MIA opened it to find a man in a grey suit holding papers. Delivery for Emma Ellis, he said, handing them over. Inside was a petition. My father was suing me. For defamation. For interfering with family business. For mental cruelty. His words, stamped in black ink, tried to rewrite the story as though he were the victim and I the villain. Mia's hands trembled as she flipped through the pages. He's trying to bury you in legal fire. But Julia wasn't surprised. She leaned back in her chair, the papers spread before her. Classic move. When abusers lose control, they escalate. He wants to scare you, drag you back into submission. But we don't scare, Emma. We fight. Her confidence lit a fire inside me. But at night, fear still crept in. What if the courts believed him? What if his money bought silence? What if I became the villain in my own story? One evening, while wiping down bakery tables, Emma found me staring at the empty chairs as though they might answer my questions. She sat across from me. You've already survived the worst of him, she said. Paper threats don't change the truth. And you're not alone anymore. Her words stitched a seam inside my chest that had been torn for years. Still, Dad didn't stop. He showed up outside the bakery once, standing across the street, hands in his pockets, staring at me through the glass like a hunter watching prey. He didn't move, didn't speak. Just stared. I froze, every instinct screaming to run. But MIA stormed outside, phone in hand, yelling that the police were already on their way. He left, but the shadow remained. The court date arrived in late spring. Rain had given way to pale sun, but inside the courthouse, the air felt icy. My father stood at the other table, his lawyer beside him, Ryan sitting smugly in the audience. Dad's eyes flicked to me once, and I saw it, the same look he'd given me at the kitchen table years ago when I spilled juice on the floor. Disappointment mixed with fury, as though my very existence had betrayed him. Julia whispered, "Remember, facts are our weapon." I spoke when asked, my voice trembling at first, then growing stronger. I told the truth. About the coffee, about the threats, about years of financial control. I produced the voicemail recordings, each one dripping with manipulation and rage. Julia placed photos of my injuries, bank statements, and written logs in front of the judge. Dad's lawyer tried to paint me as unstable, a dramatic young woman lashing out at her father. But each time, Julia cut through with precision. She's not unstable. She's a survivor. And the evidence proves it. When the ruling came, the words felt like thunder breaking the sky. The restraining order was permanent. My father's claims were dismissed. His accounts, once swollen with power, were under federal investigation due to financial irregularities Julia had unearthed in her digging. Outside the courthouse, Ryan cornered me. His face was red, sweat glistening on his forehead. You don't understand what you've done. You've destroyed us. You'll regret this. I looked him dead in the eye. No, Ryan. I destroyed the prison. If it collapses on you, that's on your choices, not mine. He lunged forward, but officers pulled him back. For once, it wasn't me retreating. It was them. The weeks that followed were quiet, almost eerily so. Dad disappeared from public view, his business crumbling under scrutiny. Ryan's debts caught up with him, creditors circling like vultures. For the first time, their empire of intimidation wasn't untouchable. But survival wasn't just about escaping them, it was about building something new. MIA offered me a partnership at the bakery. You belong here, she said. You've poured your heart into this place. Tears blurred my vision as I signed the papers, my name written freely for the first time. Life began to bloom in unexpected ways. I rented a small apartment downtown, nothing fancy, but mine. I filled it with thrift store furniture, mismatched mugs, fairy lights strung across the windows. Every detail whispered independence. And then, one evening as the bakery closed, MIA handed me an envelope. From Julia, she said. Inside was a letter on legal stationery. My father had agreed to a settlement. He would sign over a trust fund my mother had left in my name, something he had hidden, buried, stolen from me for years. Now, it was mine again. Not because he chose to give it back, but because he had no choice left. I sat in the empty bakery, the smell of sugar and bread lingering, tears spilling onto the letter. This wasn't just money. It was proof. Proof that he hadn't erased me. Proof that my mother's love, silenced for so long, had survived his control. The next morning, I visited the house one last time. The porch light was still glowing, but the hedges were overgrown, paint peeling. It no longer looked like a postcard. It looked abandoned, hollow. Inside, the air was stale. I walked through each room slowly, touching walls, remembering laughter that had always been layered with fear. In my old bedroom, I found a single photo frame that had survived my last visit. Me at 6 years old, holding my mother's hand, her eyes soft and proud. I slipped the photo into my bag and left. I didn't look back. That night, MIA and I celebrated at the bakery with champagne and cupcakes. Laughter filled the space where once there had been only whispers of pain. As I walked home under the streetlights, I realized something. Freedom isn't a single victory. It's a series of choices, every day, every hour, every moment where you choose yourself over the chains others try to bind you with. And I had chosen. My father once told me I'd regret defying him. He was wrong. The only regret I carry is that it took me this long to see my own worth. But now, I see it clearly. And I'll never let anyone steal it again. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left.